Good afternoon. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dylan Talks Tone podcast, the Just Gonna Say It podcast that we do every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We got some cool stuff to talk about today. We have a guitar to talk about. We have a dying company to talk about. We have a pretty cool podcast for next week that I'll mention, and whatever else you want to talk about as well. Before we get into our subjects for the day on the Just Gonna Say It podcast. Oh, also, starting tomorrow morning, I'm going to get back into uploading the audio to this to the RSS feed, so you'll get this on the actual podcast feeds. We kind of fell out of that over the summer because we were super busy with other stuff. So we have the way to manage that extra task lately, and so we are going to do that. I'm putting somebody on that, so that will happen. I want to thank my Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/DylanTalksTone. All of those of you who are following me on Patreon and who see the extra content over there and are part of the monthly hangouts and all that kind of stuff. Thank you, because that's what really keeps the channel going, and reviews and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate all of you, as well as the YouTube members that hit the join button down below, and everybody who uses super chats and super thanks on regular videos, all that stuff. I appreciate all of you. And of course, everybody who uses the links below and buys pickups from us as well at DylanTalksTone.com. So there you go. Cool. Well, let's see. First of all, we have to talk about this guitar. I am very, very excited. I have been a Pearl Jam fan since their inception. I mean, I remember going to their shows. I went to see Pearl Jam for the 10 tour. And I've been, a huge Seattle fan for many, many years. And when they came out with the Mike McCready custom shop guitar, it was like $15,000. And I was like, I want that. If I could afford that, I would buy that guitar right now. No real reason. I just think it's really, really cool. And I like the story of the guitar. I like the band. I like the guy. Mike McCready's really cool dude. And I thought, they're going to do what they always do. And it's going to be a $15,000 guitar. And then it's going to be a regular custom shop guitar for what, 6 or 7 or 12 or 6 or 7, I don't know, whatever. And they did that. And now they're going to make it a regular signature model for, I think it's $1,800 with a hard case, something like that. I'm all in. I ordered mine this morning. I'm supposed to have it in about 6 weeks, I think. It just kind of depends on how fast Fender can crank them out, but I'm really excited. It's the first Strat in a really long time that I've really wanted, mostly because I've wanted the Mike McCready guitar in general. I just really wanted it. And so I'm excited about it because it is a more attainable, using the term loosely. Oh, if anybody has any questions, guitar questions, get them in the comments, put a bunch of question marks in front of them. We'll try to answer them today as we go through, as well as if you use a super chat, we will kind of drop what we're doing and answer that question right away. Yeah, I'm really excited about this thing, man. It's just been a guitar that I've always wanted. And, if they came out with a Kenny Wayne Shepherd one, I'd probably buy that one too, but they would be kind of the same. So I guess it doesn't matter. But Mike McCready first. And honestly, it falls into, I know there's going to be 100 million people. I don't know why that guitar costs that much, or why it's worth that much, or that's the dumbest thing. And then there's going to be all the relic morons too. Honestly, cool stuff is cool if you think it's cool. And I think it's cool. I like it. And I don't care what you think. End of story. It's an awesome guitar to me. That's all I care. And if you have a guitar that you think is awesome to you, you should think that, and you should not care what I think or anybody else thinks. You should just play what you want to play. We all should. And so that's one of these guitars that I've just had my eye on the entire time. I hit the button and I went in there. I bought it first, and then I told Leslie, I was like, "Guess what guitar I just bought?" And I held it up, and she's like, "Oh yeah, makes total sense," because obviously she doesn't play guitar, but she really thought it was cool that I got the Slash Les Paul. I think if you could go next level down below Slash for her for Guitar Hero kind of stuff, it would be Pearl Jam. So yeah, kind of cool, super fun. I'm really, really excited about it, and I hope it's good. I mean, I'm sure it'll be good, but I hope it's really good. Like and if it's not, that's okay. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I would absolutely love. I'm really stoked to get this guitar. Yep. Nice haircut, dude. I need a haircut so bad. It is like out of control. I need a haircut so bad. It's way too long. Let's see. Let's scroll back and say hello to everybody. Hello, everyone that's here. Hello, everyone that's here. Actually comes with a hard shell case. Make it a trend. I disagree. Hard shell cases are stupid. They take way too much room, and nobody cares about them. They're too heavy. They don't ship well. People think that you should ship a guitar in a hard shell case. It's actually harder to ship a guitar in a hard shell case than in a good gig bag, because the guitar moves around too much in a hard shell case. You actually have to pack the hard shell case, then pack the hard shell case in the box. Shipping is ridiculous. I actually don't like hard shell cases. And then I have to have, like, my bathtub is full of them because that's the only place I have a spare bathroom that we don't use a bathtub. And that's where all of my guitar boxes and cases, hard shell cases are, because we just run out of room. I would much rather have no case and have the guitar displayed like this, like it is behind me, and then have a gig bag or two that I take with me when I go to a show. I just think hard shell cases are for old people. I mean, I don't know. That's just not my thing anymore. Let's see. Do you want an American Pro 2 Jazzmaster for videos? No, I do not. I don't want any more guitars right now. I'm actually kind of out of room. We actually just put the Silver Sky SE up for sale today. That guitar we're going to use it in a couple more videos here in the next week or so. But that guitar is actually up for sale because I'm just out of room. In fact, I need to probably get rid of another guitar or two before December when I get my next one. So you're probably going to see another guitar or two up for sale as well. Just room wise. It's nothing to do. I think it's so funny. People will immediately, if I post a guitar that I like for sale, oh, I knew it. He's lying about it. He totally actually doesn't like it. Why are you selling it? I thought you said it was good. They're all good. I don't buy anything I don't like. That being said, room is an actual thing and budget is an actual thing. As you are well aware, I have to buy all these guitars. We don't get free stuff. So, budget is a thing. And I kind of have a rolling budget. I have like money set aside that I've saved up with Patreon, basically. And the Patreon budget kind of is the budget, which is, it's not that much. So I kind of have to save up some and then like turn it into a rolling thing so that we can always have a fresh guitar around here for a demo. So when we do a few demos with a guitar, then I put it up for sale and it goes on to the next person. And then we get the next one to come in and do a series of videos with, kind of like that. So it's not that I don't like the guitar or think it's not as good as it used to be, or it didn't live up to the hype, or all the stupid crap people say on the internet. None of that is true. Everything we have here right now, everything that we have up for sale is all awesome. And I love it all. Just time for it to go. Plus, YouTube viewers they require new, fresh stuff, right? Like, we don't want to see the same thing all over. I'm speaking to myself too. We don't want to see the same thing over and over again. So freshening it up and having something cool and new, or different, maybe not even new and cool, but different, so we're not making the same videos all the time. yeah, I think that's super fun. Let's see. Could you talk about the guy in Colorado that does the CNC work? Sorry, I don't remember his name. If you were talking about Steve at Maximum Guitar Works, you can look him up online, maximumguitarworks.com. He has a bunch of stuff up there. What is your pickup that's most like an American early hot PAF Van Halen tone? Can you do double parchment? We will not do double cream anything because I don't want to deal with that. No, we will not do double cream anything. And probably our Super 8 is probably the closest to that, I would say. Let's see. Dylan's not a true guitar fan. He's more concerned about room. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you must be new here because when I had my last house before we sold it and lived in a motorhome, you know what it is? It's all about priorities in life. And I I don't put things over experiences for priorities is really what it comes down to. So we live very simply on purpose and do things instead of buy things. That's pretty much what it really comes down to. So that's why I have my budget set up the way I do with the guitar stuff. Cause and you're right. I'm not saying I don't like guitars. Obviously I love them. That's why we're here, but I don't like them as much as I like cars and motorcycles. I will tell you that for sure. I hate shipping hard cases. They add so much weight and jack up the shipping price. See, so Shane, you're exactly right. And I think that's why we're getting to this. So it's not that guitar brands are cheaping out on the product or, oh, we don't get a hard shell case anymore. It's that they would have to charge you more because getting the guitar here from wherever it's made, that could be in the United States, that could be in Asia. You have to pay for that weight and that mass to get it here. For example, UPS charges me the way my account works. And this is not a rule or like I don't know what the actual thing is, but what I can tell you from doing this for 10 years well, I've been shipping stuff for 20 years. I started in e-commerce in 2004. So, is that UPS, for example, it's a cross between the weight of the thing and the measurements of the box. So if you were able to cut 4 inches off of the overall measurements of the box, meaning the length, the width, and the breadth of the box, if you were to cut 4 or 5 inches off of that and get it down to their next inch level, whatever that's called, and a couple pounds off on weight, it saves a lot of money for shipping. And so when you scale that up, now for me and you, it doesn't matter. Well, for me and you, it does matter because when I ship you a guitar, I don't charge you shipping. If you buy that Silver Sky, I don't charge you shipping for it. So it does cost me. Well, when you scale that up to Fender or Gibson or whomever or Sweetwater or whomever, I don't understand Sweetwater because they ship in these huge boxes with a bunch of foam. Never understood that. Or Amazon, who ships in like this empty box with one little thing. And I don't get that because maybe they get charged by UPS differently than me. I'm not really sure. But what I do know is for me, it makes a big difference. So keeping that stuff, to a minimum is important. Let's see. What's the resale value on doing things? If you have to ask that question, I can't help you, but I will say that my kids are cool and my family's awesome and we all get along because we have done a lot. We've done a lot. Have you seen that Gibson is selling double cream bobbins pickups a la carte and in a guitar? They called it some special white color, I guess, for legal reasons. I did not see that. And speaking of legal stuff, we're going to get into this Dean situation in just a minute, but I want to look at this double cream thing, and I bet it's not double cream. They've probably been very careful to not piss off Larry DiMarzio, would be my guess. I don't know why this is not loading. Because Larry DiMarzio, has a thing about the colors of his pickups. But I do not see those. But I will look into that because I'm interested in that. I'd like to see. They just have a bunch of pop-ups on their website that makes it annoying to look at. But I do want to look at this later because, so I'm going to leave this in another window because I'm interested to see if that is the case. So far I see zebras, I see blacks, I see nickel, I see chrome. That would be the modern collection, the original collection. They do. Look at there. Double classic white. Wow. Well, that's pretty interesting. I'm curious. I'm going to call my lawyer friend and ask him about that. One of my friends is actually Larry DiMarzio's lawyer, so I'll be interested to find out. I'm going to shoot him an email tonight and find out how that's working and what they are doing about that, because that would be a very interesting conversation to have. Let's see. So yeah, it'll just probably be a matter of what they deem close enough in color. And if it confuses the consumer, I guess that's the thing. Yeah. All right. So the other thing I want to talk about today is how Dean going out of business is not Gibson's fault. Everybody wants to blame all kind of stuff on Gibson suing people. But the bottom line is Dean can't manage their way out of a wet paper bag. Let's see. The fate of Dean Guitars hangs in the balance as Armadillo, which is their parent company, faces demands to surrender all equipment and inventory. They owe about $10 million in debt, I believe, over 2 or 3 loans where they put up for security not only their equipment and their building, but also their brand name. And they have not made any payments. And this has been going on since 2019 or something, right in there. So they've just run themselves into the ground. If they can't come up with enough money, because you should know, like all the Gibson stuff, that was not millions of dollars. And honestly, they're copying somebody else's guitar trying to make money. So if that is the reason, then whatever. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty crazy. So $6.2 million mortgage to one place, $5.9 million to another place. And then $4.1 million to another place. And, oh no, I apologize. That was all the same one. 6 point something and 5.9 something. So $10 million. Crazy. And they are apparently not able to pay this. So at this point, because they put up their business and their brand name and their equipment and everything as collateral, they could lose it all because they didn't pay. And the dude that was running it, the son, was embezzling a bunch of money and all kinds of stuff too. So it sounds like this has been a accident waiting to happen, or some sort of, I don't want to even call it an accident. This has been some kind of situation happening for a few years. They're been running towards us for quite a while. So it's kind of interesting. Dylan, do you think everybody would want to purchase the company from Dean's? Anybody would want to purchase the company from Dean's creditors? I wouldn't. I was thinking about that in the shower actually, because I read this earlier, and then I've been thinking about this today before this, because I was wondering if somebody would ask that. The brand is not strong enough anymore, in my opinion. I wouldn't buy it. Um, because not only do we have these lawsuits, but we have, Dave Mustaine left. The who else left? Uh Dimebag's estate is suing Dean for unpaid royalties, and there's a couple other artists I think that are suing Dean for unpaid royalties. Their name is kind of mud right now, especially with the fraud of what's his name, whoever the guy that was running it before, the son of the parents basically that owned it before. I think that's who it is. I could be wrong about the arrangement of that, but I think it is. I think it's the son. Embezzled a bunch of money out of the company. And so, this thing has been a sort of a quagmire of problems for probably 10 years, and slowly been bleeding for 10 years. And then, I don't see anybody wanting to buy something that has been run into the ground. Now, here's the interesting thing is there's a lot of guitar players who will say, I love my Dean. I have this guitar and I have that guitar, and I've had this guitar and I've been a Dean person all my life, blah, blah, blah. It's true. It is true. And they have been a part of the guitar landscape for a very long time. But the problem is that you're only as good as your last race in 2023. So if you are, if you've run this thing into the ground over a extended period of time, and this is all people in the new market know, I've said it before, legacy is good, but a Dean like brand, a brand like Dean who has not been maintaining their legacy as of late, in my opinion, this is just an opinion, but I don't think they've been maintaining their legacy that they had before lately. And you're only as good as your last race in 2023. So if you don't have anything to show for it, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see anybody buying it. Maybe Guitar Center will buy it. I think it would be a poor financial decision to buy that company at this time. And I think that if you, unless you are somebody like Gibson or Fender, or probably Fender more than Gibson, who wants to absorb a particular market. The problem is that what is Dean's market? They made Explorers and Vs that they're not allowed to make anymore, and they made pointy guitars where the artists have now gone somewhere else. For lack of a better word, they don't really have a whole lot left to build on or to build. So if you take a company, for example, like Schecter or Jackson, or not Schecter, Jackson and Charvel. Fender bought those two companies kind of absorbed them, not because they bought them because they added value to Fender, and they occupied a certain part of the market that Fender did not occupy. Because Fender knows, and I've talked to people at Fender about this, Fender knows that they make Strats and Tellys and Jazz Masters and P basses and Jazz basses and, whatever else the main models are, right? Mustangs and whatever. But those legacy models, that's what Fender does. If Fender wants to get into shreddy land, into metal, they don't make a metal Telecaster or a metal Stratocaster. It does not work. So what they did is they absorbed a couple of companies that do that. So now they have that business, right? So now they also own and they also control, and so they can kind of feed all the markets through. Gibson did the same thing with Kramer. So now you have the legacy recognition of old school guitars that old people care about and that young people care about too, but you have to leave them alone. You can't make them all shreddy and cool. They got to be like old guitars, right? But now that you have a Kramer with Gibson, to bring in a different audience, what is Dean? What purpose or what market segment would Dean fill for somebody? People that like stupid headstocks that don't fit in regular cases? I don't know. Like I can't place it. I've been thinking about this today and I was trying to figure it out. Between the guitars they're not allowed to make and the artists that have left them, what market do they fill? It's an interesting thing to think about. Now the other thing is, they have the drum company and they have Luna guitars and they have all that other stuff. So is it possible that another company might come in, because it's not just Dean Guitars, it's Armadillo. So is it possible that somebody like another percussion company comes in and buys them and just kills off the guitar thing, but they want the drum business? Luna guitars is all beginners, not all, but there's a lot of beginner and entry level stuff there. So maybe that is a market for somebody. And if you could buy it for cheap enough, is it possible? But I don't think the Dean brand is worth buying on its own. I think maybe some of those other businesses might be worth something to somebody, but it's not worth the whole thing to somebody to save Dean, if that makes sense. Let's see. And Gibson won't buy them because they already own the shapes. So why would they pay twice for something that they already own? Gibson owns the shapes. That was the whole point of the lawsuit, is that Dean was stealing the shapes. So they don't. Why would they buy them after owning them already? That doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, it's just poor brand image and poor management. I mean, I've seen it a bunch of times with other guitar companies, especially small guitar companies, and bad reputation management, bad, there's just all kinds of stuff that can go into it, especially in 2023. I mean, the way things work now, you have to get on the internet and talk to people and tell people what's going on. And this is the other thing, Dean is, for all intents and purposes, in my opinion anyway, they have no real new artists. Nobody under 50, or alive, still alive. I mean, no shade on Dimebag Darrell, but he's dead. So we can't, he's not going to come out with a new record and a new model. It's just not going to happen. So, and Mustaine moved on to Gibson. So who else is there? Leslie West? He's not alive either. So like, there's nothing left there. And those headstocks are terrible. And I know that's a joke, but it's not. Because if you're trying to buy a company and figure out what to do with it and sell guitars in 2023, there aren't going to be very many 21-year-old kids, unless they're like mini Joe Dirts or something, who are going to want those peg heads. They're just not. It's just not what people play anymore. And all the wood, like all the fancy wood stuff that they've done and all that stuff, like that stuff is, especially the way Dean's was doing it for the most part, it's just kind of an over thing in my opinion. The player from Mudvayne still plays Dean. Okay. Yeah, but Really? How many people does, how many, you don't even know his name, first of all. Do you know his name? He's the player from Mudvayne. Okay, so that says it right there. Awesome band, love them, fantastic band. Seen them 3 or 4 times. They're really good. I don't remember his name. He doesn't. They don't. He doesn't. This dude doesn't do nothing anymore. I mean, they have a record every once in a while, but he tours out of a used Tahoe or whatever. Like they're not. He ain't Keith Richards, is what I'm saying, and he's not gonna save a guitar company. There's no way. Mullets could come back any day. Yeah, you should move to Georgia. They are back. I'm not saying they should be, but they are. And the majority of stuff that you see from Dean is imports. And let's face it, as much as I like a lot of the stuff coming out of Cortec and a lot of the stuff coming out of some of the Korean factories, we have no end of guitar brands from Indonesia and Korea. There's just, more guitars than you can shake a stick at in whatever color you want. With peg heads that fit in a regular gig bag. Really. What about Dean moving to a country where metal is strong, somewhere in South America? Yeah, I mean, but that's money. And if you don't own anything anymore, it's money. It's all about money. We'll see. We'll see. You're depressing me. I'll still love my Dean. And you can still love your Dean. There's all kinds of stuff that isn't made anymore that's still really cool. That's the cool thing about stuff that's good. It will last a long time if you take care of it. And it won't go irrelevant as long as you like it. Guitar gear is only as irrelevant as you let it be. If you have 20 guitars and there's one that's sitting over in the corner and you never play it, it's not that the guitar is any worse. It's just you don't play it as much. So you can continue to make that product relevant to you as long as you want. I mean, I don't see why there's a problem with that, but I just feel like it's going to be, time moves on. Go buy something else. Learn something new. Just because you had one when you were 17 or when you bought that guitar when you're 17 doesn't mean you can't buy something now and enjoy it more than that. Like, who are you today? Let's get a little philosophical here, but good grief, who are you today? I don't know how much value is going to be in the Dean brand. I'm not really sure, but Dean ain't going nowhere realistically. I don't know what you mean by that. If they're going to stay around for a long time, I kind of doubt it, at least in the state that they're in now. But if you mean they're not going anywhere, I kind of think they're not going to be going anywhere. They're kind of stuck. We'll have to see. I mean, there's some rich dude with an IROC Z somewhere going, you know what? I want to buy me a guitar company. It's possible. It is possible. I have trouble seeing Dean getting credit. It won't be them. It'll be somebody else. They will not get credit. Somebody else will buy them. If anything happens, I think somebody will buy them or buy up the rest or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a matter of liking or disliking anything. It's the financial viability of the product, of the business. And sometimes there can be a very good product and the business owner does not know how to run a business. I've seen it many, many, many times. And I'll tell you what, in art related businesses, it's worse. In I saw it in the dirt bike industry too. You'd have a really good product that legitimately makes something faster, and the profit margin was like good on it and everything. But if you can't manage the business, and if you don't understand how to spend money and how to save money, and honestly, how to spend money, that's really the thing, then you run the business into the ground and it doesn't work. And in guitar stuff, the problem with guitar stuff from there's a huge disconnect between the feelings that a guitar produces and the logic and pragmatism that you need to run a business in the guitar space. Fortunately, I have both. I love guitar stuff and I love music, and music totally moves me, but I also know that I'm not buying Dean based on the fact that, I grew up in a time when iRock Zs were popular. Like, I'm just not going to do it. And I'm not going to run my business in such a way that is so based on feelings that I run it into the ground. It is a business. I am going to make money. Am I going to get rich? Probably not. But am I going to run it properly so that I can support my family? Absolutely. And if you don't do that, and if you get super hung up on the feeling that a guitar gives a person and don't look enough at the business, you will run it into the ground every time. And it's also the same reason why people in comment sections, when we talk about lawsuits with Gibson, we talk about trademark stuff, we talk about stuff like this, why a product gets discontinued, why PRS doesn't make left-handed guitars, why it doesn't come in the color you want it to come in, why they don't make a triple cutaway super duper frets, whatever guitar one person dreams of in the comment section. And everybody gets like, I want this. Why don't they make it? Because you're being driven by the emotions that you feel you would get from owning such an instrument. You're not looking at the business side of what it takes to make that happen. This guitar is too expensive. Why are guitars so expensive? Why is the Mike McCready guitar $1,800? I can tell you exactly why it's $1,800. Because the guitar is actually probably $1,349 money, because that guitar actually should be what, $1,249. But then they've got all the relicking stuff. They've got a hard shell case. So then it brings it up to probably $1,500, which is what most of the artist stuff was before all these price increases and stuff. So then you add a $200 to $400, and for Mike McCready, it's going to be higher, premium for the artist that gets paid on that. And now you're at $1,849. It makes total sense. Everybody's like, why is that guitar so expensive? And what makes it worth that? I can tell you exactly what makes it worth it. You take a $1,249 guitar, you add this, and this, and this, and this, these features and these things that you may or may not like. I don't care, but they are on the guitar. Don't jump on there for free. It takes time and it takes money to do that. So you add that on, then you put a hard shell case in there, and then you put the artist premium on there, and you arrive at $1,849 from a $1,249 guitar. Is it worth it to you? If it's not, don't buy it. Don't bitch about it on the internet, but don't buy it. I think it's worth it to me, so I'm going to buy it. And that's all. That's the business. I'm going to get the feeling that hopefully that I want from that instrument, but I also understand what it took to get the guitar to me, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of guitar players don't do that. They don't understand how all that works. And that's why we try to inform about it so much. I know we talk a lot about product costs and business and stuff on this channel, but I think it's important because people don't get it. They don't understand it. Especially if you're not self-employed. If you're self-employed and you make ball bearings for a living, or I don't know, if you're a window washer, if you're I don't know, do you own a coffee shop or whatever? If you're, or if you're a roofer or whatever, and you have to buy your own tools and you have to buy your own boots and you have to buy your own stuff and you have to buy your own insurance and you start to you get that more. You start to understand that more. But for those of us who may or may not have that, maybe you work at a T-Mobile call center and so you don't have costs associated with doing your job. You might not get that connection as much. And there's nothing wrong with that. I need the person. It's Verizon for me, but I need that person to work there. Like if I need them, I need them. We need each other. Every job is needed. But usually the folks that aren't self-employed may not have as firm a grasp on all that stuff. So bringing this back around to the Dean thing and even the 1849 made in Mexico guitar, that's not worth it. We should save Dean because 3 people still drive IROCs. So there's a reason why this stuff happens, and you got to be pragmatic about it. Yeah. Super interesting stuff to think about and to learn. Let's see. Trying to go back through these comments here, and I want to see Gibson by Dean. You know what's really funny about that? They have probably the closest peghead designs. They wouldn't need to retool very much. Oh my gosh. I love it. Self-employed and work 9 to 5. Dude, that is the thing. That happens for a lot of people these days, doesn't it? Dylan, one thing I would love to add on is that a guitar with a plastic nut on this, a guitar with plastic nut should cost $800, and the same guitar is $1,100 with a bone nut costs $1. Is that the only feature difference on the guitar? We've talked about this before. The delta between those two is not just a plastic nut. The delta between those two is not just a plastic nut. There's got to be something else there, but there is a multiplier there. Usually it's about 4 to 1. Usually it's about for every dollar spent on a guitar, it goes up about 4. And that's real business. That's how real business works. Because the cost to make that thing happen is a thing. If you have to pay to do a thing, it's like these people that what guitar did we have? It was the Squier 40th anniversary Stratocaster with the block inlays, and they're like, this guitar is so expensive. Well, it's got a bound neck and block inlays. That's the only difference. No, actually, it's not. It has a aluminum pickguard, which is pretty limited. They don't have them. And the block inlays and the binding just don't jump on there by themselves. Like this stuff just doesn't materialize out of nowhere. Like money has to be spent. Engineering time has to be spent. Tooling time has to be spent. And the other thing you have to think about too is what is the amortization costs of, that's the wrong word. It's not the depreciation either, but basically so let's say somebody's going to build a guitar and it's going to be a core model for a really long time. Like the Silver Sky SE. That guitar is $849. It's great. It's established in the marketplace. Everybody buys them. You can't hardly get them because everybody buys them. They're fantastic instruments, and they're $849 because Paul Reed Smith knew he was going to sell thousands and thousands and thousands of them. If he took the same exact guitar and he added 2 features to it and knew that he was going to sell 500 of them, the guitar would have to be more expensive because the tooling cost changes, the parts changes, and all of the engineering going around that, reprogramming of CNCs, blah, 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 now has to be squished down into 500 pieces, not thousands and thousands. The cost of that has to be spread over those 500 pieces, not thousands of pieces. So there's all kinds of business stuff that goes into all of this that, I don't know, make perfect sense to me, but for some reason we don't think about it in comment sections when we're talking about all this stuff. It's really good to think about because it puts more of a realistic take on how we get guitars and what guitars are and how much they cost and what it takes to run a business. Let me tell you guys, you see me for, you see me for what? An hour here, 2 hours on Thursday, and another 20, 30 minutes throughout the week. I'm up from before the sun comes up to way after the sun goes down to make all this go. 7 days a week. 7 days a week. And you'll be like, yeah, well, I saw you driving somewhere and you weren't making my order. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't on a phone call. That doesn't mean I wasn't literally strategizing what the next thing is going to be to keep the company afloat. Like, all those things are important and they all take time. So it's an interesting, I like, I like products like the Mike McCready Strat because it gives us a chance to talk about this. And I like these stories. I hate that this is happening to Dean. I do. We're not reveling in their failure, but come on, man. The writing was on the wall. So let's talk about it and understand why it's happening. Super, super cool. Super cool stuff to talk about. I don't understand people bitching about the prices of Epiphones and Squires because they aren't priced like some random Chinese brand. It's true. It is true. I've said this too, and I know that you folks with grayer hair than me get offended or pissed or irritated when I say it, but let's just be real here. You've seen more inflation over your life than a young person has. And let's not forget that, this century is 23 years old. My daughter was born in 2000 and she's a full-on adult, lives on her own. She's 23. But she doesn't know a world without touchscreens. When she was 8 or 9 years old and got her first, little thing to play on, Game Boy or whatever. It wasn't a Game Boy. It was can't remember what it was. Anyways, it was a touchscreen. She's a full-blown adult that doesn't know a world without touchscreens. And she only knows 23 years of inflation. So if you tell a 23-year-old who has the budget to buy the Mike McCready guitar, that guitar is going to be $1,800, she's going to go, oh, okay. It's only the old people who are like, well, I remember back when it was only 300, and lose touch with where they came from. So yeah, it's a harsh reality as we get older, isn't it? And I know that not every person with gray hair is like that. I know that's true, but I just feel like it's in the comments a lot. There's a lot of people down there. Oh, speaking of stuff that you're not going to like in the comments, I sat down yesterday and recorded next week's podcast, and I am very excited about it. It is available already over on Patreon and for YouTube members. So if you hit the join button down there for the YouTube folks, for those of you that don't want to mess with Patreon, there's a join button for YouTube down there. The very basic level gets you this. Whenever we have guests and other stuff too, I try to record them a week ahead of time and put them out early for members. So Patreon members and YouTube members, there is about an hour and 20-minute uncut, totally uncut. I didn't edit or anything. I just hit the record, and so you get to hear the before and the after and all that. Interview with KDH from the KDH YouTube channel, and it was really cool. And for those of you who already commented, I'm not going to listen to that because that's not my cup of tea, your loss, man. Assumptions are a bitch. The guy is really cool, and I hope to get to talk to him again. His head is on straight, and I really appreciate the conversation that we had yesterday. The podcast will be going up next Tuesday at 4:00. We will have a normal podcast. We will come on and then we will introduce it. And I did discuss it with him. He's in Ireland, so he's 5 hours ahead. But he said he was going to do his best to be in the chat when we are airing his podcast. So you'll see the way this works. We did this before. The way this works is it's just a normal podcast. I start it and then we play the video within the podcast. So the chat will be going and he will be in the chat. Hopefully he said he's going to do his best to be available for that time slot. So if you'll be able to actually, hopefully, if he's here and can swing it, be able to interact with KDH in the chat deal. So I think you'll dig it. He's a really cool cat. I told him if he's open to collaborating further in the future, I totally would. We talk a lot about, normally with those podcasts, I don't normally get all, this is how YouTube works. But since so many people have such a weird impression of what he does and why he does it, I thought it important to kind of dive into the process a little bit. And it was a really interesting conversation. And it's also interesting to have a conversation with somebody from the other side of the world because they have different perspective than me. And I really appreciated that as well. So it was a really cool thing to do. And that is, again, that is available at patreon.com/DylanTalksTone right now, as well as to YouTube join members down there, and it will come out next week. So let me just make sure that let's see. No spoilers, but the KDH interview is pretty darn good. Yeah, Robert is a Patreon member, so he got to hear it already. Pretty cool. Yeah, it was a really neat thing. And I'm not sure that he's done this much. He was really grateful to be able to do it. And no, it was really fun. We had a good time, had a nice chat. I like the guy a lot. So thanks for hanging out. And I guess we will see you. I might put out a video tomorrow. I'm working on a thing. So it just depends. We got a lot of humbuckers over here to construct tomorrow and tele pickups and a bunch of other stuff. So we are literally pretty slammed, but I'm going to try to keep going with some of this stuff. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. And if we don't see you tomorrow, we will see you Thursday.